I find myself in the middle of a vast, empty chasm. The only motion is that of the cold, cold gusts billowing over and around me. The stone has been slowly chiseled away over the course of eons before anyone was ever here to care. It's just one more reminder in a series of hundreds. A reminder that says, I am not supposed to be here. No one is. Well, except him. The gargantuan behemoth rolls over the cracked and dry terrain. At first it is too far away to hear, but slowly this subdued rumble reaches me as I stumble to keep my footing. It's coming towards me, and I do not have enough time to outrun it. I don't even know if it's aware of my existence, or if I'm just an unfortunate bug in its path. Eventually, even my own thoughts are drowned out as it gets closer and closer and closer. Alright, I know you're on the edge of your seat, grippers clenched, but we have a lot more to talk about before we get to that. This is the Utility Room, possibly the strangest VR game I've ever played. I tried it for the same reason that I tried being a Mormon for a week, because I was bored. It's about the behind the scenes of the universe. It's about massive doors, barren landscapes, and many strange cosmic forces 10,000 times larger than us with goals that we can't even comprehend. And you, as the player, are this tiny, insignificant speck stuck in the middle of it all. But the weird thing is, the game doesn't actually tell you much more than a very basic, brief summary. And that's okay. When I played this game for the first time, I was too busy running from sentient rocks to really worry about the deeper story taking place. But once I finished the game, I couldn't shake the feeling that I just had to know the truth. Unfortunately, as far as I can tell, no one else on this platform has ever dared to explain the entire lore of this game, which means one thing. This is now my cross to bear. I must now take on the daunting task of being the first ever person to explain this game's story on YouTube. And trust me, it is not going to be easy. There's a lot to get through here, but I have to do this. My only hope is that I get it right, because I don't want to be portraying a different story than what the original creator, Lionel Marsden, intended. I'm going to do my best, and hopefully I end up doing justice to this massive Lovecraftian world. If this game seems at all interesting to you at any point, please go and download it yourself, because I wouldn't want to rob you of the ability to play through it blind. I'm just a humble tour guide, nothing more. Now, without any further ado, let's begin at the only sensible part to start at, the beginning. My journey started when I woke up in a black void, far from the nearest star, slowly moving toward a small stone door. I know it might seem weird that I called the door small, but, well, you know where this is going. Things in this game are going to get way bigger. This is a bittersweet moment for me. I have spent the last 3 million years searching for this very place. Many people have heard of its existence, but as far as we know, no one has ever dared to find it before. For a long time, humans couldn't even live long enough to reach it. Now, thankfully, that is not a problem, because futuristic technology has allowed us to drastically extend our own lifespans, but still, it seems like an eternity since I left home. I even sort of missed the people who mocked me so long ago when I set out on this voyage. Sort of. But now I've found it. I've found the edges of the universe. I've found the utility room. I step off of my spaceship. I know it doesn't look like a spaceship, but I promise it is one. It turns out that as you get closer and closer to the edge of the universe, reality itself starts, well, glitching. Every object, including myself, has become slowly simplified, compressed, broken down into abstraction. Like the Firefox logo. It's kind of like how in some versions of Minecraft, the farther away from spawn that you walk, the more distorted the world gets, as objects start to look strange and alien, and you go farther than the developers ever intended you to. That's sort of what's happened to me. I am now nothing more than a disembodied set of eyes, nose, and mouth, and my spaceship, which used to be a beautiful, sleek vessel made of state-of-the-art materials and computers, is now just 3 warped metal objects. The farther I've gotten away from my home planet, the more I and this spaceship have become unrecognizable. It still clearly works the same way it always has, it's just that its appearance has changed. I can only hope that as I make my way home later, we'll both regain our previous forms. My appearance in this game is actually inspired by the classic painting by Rene Magritte called Every Day. I don't think this actually has any significance for the story of the game, but it's a fun piece of trivia. But enough about me. What's this door? It's the entrance to the utility room, and the rest of the game. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, what is the utility room? Well, let me explain. We know for a fact that the universe operates according to a set of physical constraints, like the speed of light, the gravitational constant, and the strength of electromagnetic forces. All of these are so finely tuned that if they were even slightly different, our universe would simply never be able to support life, and in some cases would have collapsed in on itself long ago. And the utility room is the answer to that incredible mystery. It is the backstage of the universe, the behind the scenes where all the heavy lifting takes place. The utility room keeps the universe together, it keeps it stable. It represents the idea that our universe is not simply upkept by random chance, but controlled by whatever is inside this door. We don't know how yet, but we will, as soon as I get inside this door. The problem is, I can't. I have no way of opening this door at all. And so, I'm forced to look around. There's a big stone slab next to the door. It looks almost like a plaque at a museum, telling me what I'm seeing. And that's exactly what it is. I can actually see this very door right here on a diagram that shows where it is in the universe. All these dots are probably individual galaxies, scattered like grains of sand with immeasurable distances between them, and held inside the universe like a big glass bottle. There's a few other diagrams here too, of things that I don't recognize yet. A blob thingy, Mr. Clean, and that one emoji I send to people when I want to let them know that they are not funny. There's also text, in a language I can't read. Who is this for? Are they expecting tourists here? Next to the plaque is a little funnel, and levitating inside of it is a small, shiny ball, the perfect shape for my little hands. It's pretty obvious what I have to do, isn't it? After putting the ball in, the door does open. It seems to have acted like a sort of key, finally letting me inside, and in it we can see a gigantic obelisk swaying back and forth like a massive pendulum. There's also another diagram showing where I am and the true size of this object. It seems to be disconnected from the ground, so it doesn't just look like a pendulum, it must actually be a pendulum, hanging from some surface way up high that I'll never see. And just below it, apparently, is the ground. I can't see that either since it's so far below me, but that must be the utility room. But how do I actually get down there? It's a long way to fall. Well, it just so happens that there's another 2 orbs here. And while the last one acted like a key that led us inside this door, these ones are spinning around each other. The diagram seems to suggest that these orbs are connected to the pendulum somehow. But why? What's the point? And what would happen if they stopped? I shatter the orbs and start teleporting around. I have just broken a very, very important part of the utility room. Even worse, I'm now being watched. These are the workers of the utility room. They deliver information to and fro, and apparently, according to the utility room wiki, which was written by Lionel, the developer, they even have telekinetic powers that they occasionally use. We don't know why they look like humans. Humanity lives millions of years away, so it doesn't really make sense that these cosmic beings would share an appearance with us. Maybe this implies that in the universe of the utility room, humans are the only intelligent life, which would mean that these workers basically work for us. Then it would kind of make sense why they would take on forms that look like us too. Either way, the workers watch me carefully. But suddenly I teleport several more times, and now I am much further away. I seem to have been teleported into the utility room itself. So, what just happened? I'm sure you're very confused. Lucky for both of us, the game's developer also made a short film about the utility room long before this game ever came out, and it shows how those orbs work more clearly than the game does, and it also tells us more clearly what we just did. In the film, those orbs are called the Keepers. We can see that the Keepers move perfectly in sync with the pendulum. They seem to keep it on track to make sure it isn't destabilized, and that it can continue to do whatever it's meant to do. Now that they've been shattered, the utility room itself is unstable and dangerous. The pendulum controls the relationship between space and time, so me destabilizing it caused my very position in space to change. I started teleporting here, there, everywhere, and now this cave that I'm in, well, who knows how far from the door it really is. Maybe just a couple miles, maybe light years. The utility room has no set size. It's basically infinite, both horizontally and vertically. It's an impossible space. The second I walked through that door, the utility room appeared far underneath my feet, and now it stretches out forever. I could try to keep walking in one direction and reach the end, but I never would. There is no end. The only way of getting out now is to go back through that door. That's when the utility room vanishes and the universe comes back to take its place. Physically, this is obviously impossible, yet somehow all of this exists. Now, I really only have one option for what to actually do. I have to move. And so I do. I walk through endless caves, and the whole time I hear this ominous humming and whooshing. The sound design in this game is pretty great, as we'll soon see. We don't know where these sounds are coming from yet, but trust me, we will. This part of the game is particularly unnerving. I could be millions of kilometers underground right now for all I know. I'm honestly just lucky I didn't teleport into solid rock. On the bright side, at least the workers have no idea where I am now, so they can't hurt me for what I did. The only other sign of life in these caves is this one little moving rock. I'm gonna see more and more stuff like this as I continue my journey, making it almost seem like the utility room itself, even the ground I'm standing on, is alive in some way. Shifting, growing, organic. Keep this in mind as we continue. This rock on its own doesn't do much, so I move on, and I do find an exit. This gives me my first good look at what the rest of the utility room actually looks like. If you thought the surface was going to be more pretty, you were dead wrong. It's rocky and dry, and color doesn't seem to even exist in this place. Maybe it's a luxury not needed by whatever lives here. Maybe everything here exists only to work and has no need for aesthetic beauty of any kind. And so, aesthetic beauty simply does not exist. This part of the game, this view, was the first part of the utility room ever imagined.
Hi, I'm Lionel Marsden. I had the idea a few years ago whilst lying in bed. I was atop a very tall mountain and I was looking down into a valley below me. And in the valley was an Easter Island head, except it was several miles high. It was floating through with a stern look on its face, like it had a job it was doing.
I knew then that it was a whole world, but it wasn't until last year that I felt confident enough to translate it into a VR title. I've been working around 8 to 12 hours a day this past year to get it finished. I wouldn't suggest anyone doing the same thing as a solo dev. It takes a pretty big toll on your relationships, mental and physical health, and finances, but I'm quite proud of how it's come together. There's one thing worth noting here. It's this thing. You saw it in the beginning of the video, so you know it's going to be trouble later, and we'll talk more about it when we get there. This cliff is way too steep to drop down, and honestly, we can't even see the pendulum from here, so we don't really know which direction to go in. So my only option is to follow this narrow ledge, and it is terrifying. I've played a lot of VR games in the past, so I'm kind of used to it, but it reminds me of my first time playing Richie's Plank experience. It's one thing to see these massive mountains and creatures on your flat screen, but in VR it is so much more impressive and terrifying. And you only really understand that when you see it for yourself. This game is repeatedly telling you, you are not supposed to be here. There are of course no suns or stars in the utility room, so where's all this light coming from? Well, Lionel has also mentioned that while the door is the main entrance to the utility room, black holes may be another entrance. Black holes are known to pull everything, including light, into their event horizon. But there's also a theoretical concept of a white hole, the opposite of a black hole, and the idea is that they may be connected to each other. This suggests that everything that enters a black hole could emerge from a white hole, including light. If a black hole were to draw in a significant amount of light, it could all emerge from the white hole at once, creating an effect similar to sunlight. But regardless, that's just a theory. Eventually, I find another cave entrance and I go inside. Up until now, this game hasn't scared me too much, but now I saw this. Now I knew that these things from earlier, the workers, were still following me. And this terrified me. And right after this, I literally got scared of my own shadow. I was walking through this cave and I suddenly saw my shadow on the wall and I practically jumped out of my skin. And the funny thing is, I'm not the only one. I found some playthroughs on YouTube where other people had the exact same reaction at the exact same part of the game. The best part is that I can't even tell if it's an intentional jump scare or not, but it just feels too perfect to be an accident. Unfortunately, it turns out that I won't be able to get out of these caves anytime soon. In fact, I just keep going deeper. I find myself in an area named the Cathedral. The name of Cathedral implies that there's some kind of worship happening here, but if it is, I either don't see it or don't recognize it. Does a god even exist in the world of the utility room? We might or might not get the answer to that question later on. Oh, who am I kidding? Of course we will. I leap across unimaginable chasms and fall down countless rabbit holes, burrowing deeper into the rock. But as I go deeper and deeper, I notice something strange. The caves start to become less natural and more angular, square, artificial. This is the area of the game called the computer. I will soon see what that means. For now, I just come across more of those adorable moving rocks. They're called slugs, and seem to be the ones grinding down these stones into the perfectly square shapes we just saw. But why? And how do they feel about me intruding on their home when I was never supposed to be here in the first place? I get my answer very quickly. As I crawl through these caverns, I come across a long bridge delicately sculpted over an insurmountable ravine, and at the end of it is one of the slugs. I walk carefully across the bridge, even though I have a very bad feeling about the whole thing, and sure enough, this slug speeds towards me, almost knocking me off the thing. To make matters worse, turns out this bridge isn't even complete, and I have to jump across to the other side, barely making it while the slug speeds back around to catch me. Maybe it seems silly to you that a literal rock would scare me as much as this did, but when you're in the middle of this game and these things start chasing after you, all rational thought goes out the window, and this would not be the last time I faced off against the slugs. There's a few collectibles scattered throughout this game that have information about the creatures here. According to one of them, the slugs are some of the workers of the utility room, like the ones I saw before, though the slugs are some of the youngest creatures here, being only 30 to 40 million years old. Lionel has stated that all the creatures we see in the utility room started as normal rocks, and then they evolved into these slugs, and slowly evolved again into more complex creatures over millions of years. Those workers I saw earlier used to look just like this, long ago. Regardless, this suggests that even though all these creatures here look like rocks, even though this whole place looks like rocks, they are somehow organic. The collectible I just mentioned also says that as they get older, they get more aggressive, which is a little weird since they would normally not have anyone to be aggressive to. This could explain why the smaller slug I saw earlier was so much more friendly. It must have been younger. Maybe as it grows and gets older, it'll become more aggressive too, just like these. Either way, these are some of the strangest characters in the game, and I like them so much I got an action figure of one of them. Calling this level of the game the computer seems to suggest that this is where a lot of the work in the utility room takes place. According to the wiki, the utility room can be compared to a switchboard. These creatures moving around and making these paths and structures is like an extremely complicated way of using a switch on a switchboard. These slugs are somehow sending signals to the broader universe that affect reality itself. They don't actually do anything apart from move around like this, so all they can do to affect their environment is basically grind against the ground and the rock to change its shape over a long period of time, like we mentioned before. But you can think of them as acting just by moving around in the same way a magnet might act by just moving around. By it simply existing and moving through space, other magnetic objects are affected by it. That's similar to how these slugs affect the universe above them. Maybe they keep galaxies from colliding into each other, or black holes from getting too big, or even something as small as keeping the weather consistent on our little planet. It's not really told to us, but these abstract actions have massive effects on everything we know, and if you use a bit of imagination, I think the implications of that are pretty cool. It's a fun concept. To us, it is of course impossible to fully understand how the actions of these creatures affect the real world. After all, they're just moving around on stones. They're doing nothing. The purpose of this place seems incomprehensible, but we are likely just too simple of beings to understand the cosmic actions taking place here. It's like how to a rat, one of our computers just looks like a bunch of cables, metal, and plastic. And even if we could communicate with that rat, no matter how much we would try to explain, they would just look at it and see it as nothing. They are physically incapable of understanding the types of things we create, and the types of things we do, and why we do them. In the same way, the actions of these slugs seem silly to us. Rolling down these pathways over and over again, we scoff at it. We just have to trust that they are somehow comprehending something we are not, or intuitively know that there is, in fact, a hidden purpose to what they are doing. An invisible purpose, just like the invisible electricity running through the circuit boards in the device you're using right now to watch this video. Again, it's interesting that this level is called the computer because it doesn't really look like one, at least until I reached this. A massive maze of stone conduits, snaking through an empty chasm, and this looks like a computer. It looks like a primitive circuit board. I have no choice but to crawl across it like an ant stuck in my computer, looking for a way out.
No, seriously. He's been in there for a while. I hope he's okay.
This is one of the most challenging parts of the game to me, because there's a bunch of slugs chasing me around as I scurry through this maze looking for a way out. There's all sorts of dead ends, too, and the slugs move faster than me, so to keep them from catching up to me, I have to jump across this giant pit from one stone beam to another, but eventually I got lucky, and I did find my way out. A giant stone head, battered and bruised, with chunks taken out of it, easily the most ancient creature I've seen so far, moving right under me. I jumped onto it and was carried away. This creature is the primordial watcher, and it's not the only one of its kind. They are billions of years old and probably the source of all that deep whooshing we heard earlier. If the slugs complete the small tasks that keep our universe in balance, these guys complete the big ones. Pretty much every creature in this game is some variation of a big head. Lionel actually seems to have quite a fascination with weird big heads, and a lot of his other works feature similar ones, although they're all very unique in some way. This new friend of mine finally takes me to an exit from the caves. There, I see the remains of other creatures who were destroyed at some point. I don't know how they were destroyed yet, but maybe the destruction of these creatures is what causes bad things to happen in our universe, like an earthquake or a particularly large solar flare. Either way, there's nothing I can do for them now, so I step out into the largest area of the game so far. I find myself in the middle of a vast, empty chasm. The only motion is that of the cold, cold gusts billowing over and around me. The stone has been slowly chiseled away over the course of eons before anyone was ever here to care. It's just one more reminder in a series of hundreds. A reminder that says, I am not supposed to be here. No one is. Well, except him. The gargantuan behemoth rolls over the cracked and dry terrain. At first it is too far away to hear, but slowly this subdued rumble reaches me as I stumble to keep my footing. It's coming towards me, and I do not have enough time to outrun it. I don't even know if it's aware of my existence, or if I'm just an unfortunate bug in its path. Eventually, even my own thoughts are drowned out as it gets closer and closer and closer. VR games often let you choose whether to walk or teleport, since teleporting is less likely to make you motion sick, and that's the option I chose when playing this game. It let me outrun this guy, but if you're not that lucky, you may have to flatten yourself against the cold stone floor to evade him. Otherwise, you will be killed, and it probably won't even notice. I don't usually feel megalophobia, the fear of very large things, because I find that most stories that use megalophobia are very firmly planted in fiction. Giant monsters, massive alien beasts, these things are so fantastical that they usually don't faze me. But something about this game is different. Probably at least partially because it's a VR game, and in VR everything feels 10 times more real. This level especially was one of those rare things that makes me truly feel megalophobia. The giant head is so massive and it looks so ominous as it flies toward me in this VR environment, it's just perfect. And I'm not the only person to think this. Lionel also posted this clip on the Megalophobia subreddit, and it got tens of thousands of upvotes. And obviously that wasn't even in VR. Clearly, there is something about this particular scene that is viscerally scary to people. If the creature I met earlier was a primordial watcher, this is a slightly younger normal watcher, and this canyon is its sidewalk. It is over 700 meters tall, almost as high as the tallest skyscraper we've ever built, and definitely wider too. On the other hand, the primordial watcher I saw earlier was only 150 meters, the size of 50 school buses stacked on top of each other. These watchers are known to carve paths through mountains to make getting through easier. This is done by slowly eroding the peaks of the mountains down as they pass over the top layer by layer for millions of years. That's how this valley was formed. Watchers go through it often. Watchers are obviously very similar in appearance to many things on our world, and according to the Utility Room Wiki, across the universe. Like many civilizations, statues, idols, and obviously the Easter Island heads. But why? Again, according to the wiki, some argue that the reason these heads are so similar to things we see on our own planet is because the Watchers have a spiritual quality to them that seems to transcend our historical understanding of them. In other words, we are naturally drawn to the cosmic nature of these beings, even if we don't know of their existence. Like how tons of ancient cultures all separately developed their own unique stories of massive floods that have eerie similarities. Maybe there's some things that have such cosmic significance that we're just attracted to them. That's why some of our ancestors spent so much time creating replicas of Watchers on a random island ages ago. It's also possible that some Watchers came to Earth at one point and humans made sculptures of them as a form of worship, or even just simple adoration. The Watchers could totally have left the utility room at some point. We have no reason to believe that they are trapped here. Maybe they could leave through those white holes that we mentioned earlier. Or maybe there's another way that they could get out of the utility room that we haven't even heard of. If you want to know the meta reason why Lionel made the creatures in his game look so much like Easter Island heads, he's said that without a cultural context and based on physiognomy, the Moai seem really otherworldly. The in-universe reason can obviously be something completely different, but that was his actual rationale for making them look like that from a real-world perspective. There's one more thing in this area worth noting. While I can't follow the Watcher for very long because it goes off a very steep ledge, I can follow it for a little while, and then turn left into this little alcove here where I find this. There's no indication of what it is, but it makes sounds that feel almost organic, alive, like a heartbeat. If you look closely, you can see that this thing is made of flesh, it has hair, pores, it's disgusting. Maybe one of the creatures in the utility room tried to make something organic at one point and failed terribly, then just left it here. Or maybe it's a previous human who found their way here like I did, was discovered, and was punished for it by being transformed and forced to stay here forever, unmoving. That would be kind of similar to the science fiction story I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, where an AI takes over our planet and turns the last living human into a formless blob thing, just to torture it forever. And there's one other piece of evidence that supports this theory. According to one of the game's achievements, this thing is called the Human. Creepy. I continue on to some terrain that seems a bit more manageable than everything I've seen thus far. A wide open expanse with the pendulum swinging in the distance. I know that I started this whole journey at the door, just above the pendulum. We could see them right next to each other. If I can get back there, maybe I can somehow get up to the door and leave, even though it is very high up. Otherwise, I could just try walking in any random direction, but as we've already said, that would be kind of pointless. Remember, by destroying the Keepers, I messed up the space-time balance of the universe, so I might see things start to truly fall apart any minute now. I have no idea what that would look like. I keep walking along this ledge and see another watcher, possibly the same one that almost ran me over just a few minutes ago. Like before, it doesn't seem to notice me. There's a collection of boulders here too. These boulders are known to appear in the sky and fall to the ground below like asteroids. They seem to fall from nowhere and keep their shape intact upon impact. It is thought that they could be compacted galaxies deposited into the utility room by black holes like a trash chute. This would explain why they don't shatter when they hit the ground. If they were compacted tightly enough, their density would make it very difficult to break them apart again. We see collections of these boulders all over the utility room, grouped together either because workers moved them into groups to keep them tidy, or because a black hole managed to swallow multiple of them, causing them all to land within the same place here when they came out the other side. One of the boulders is sitting on the very edge of the cliff. It seems like it could fall any second, but for all we know, it's been there for longer than I've been alive. I walk down this convenient staircase, getting ever closer to the pendulum. It's hard to say who this staircase is built for, but again, according to the game's creator, there are possibly many other creatures that exist in the utility room that I never actually see. So even though all the ones I've seen so far have just floated around, it's possible that there are others that have actual legs. Now, these stairs, like everything else here, have been growing for eons. Some of them have actually started to gain awareness, like one of the slugs I saw before, and with enough time, maybe they could evolve to be more complex creatures. For now, they've only gained just enough awareness to drop down and jump up. It seems that any object in the utility room, when given enough time, will become aware of its own existence and start to move, however it can, slowly moving more and more until it becomes a more complex being, like the watchers or workers. If I'm caught on these stairs when they move, I will be launched, so naturally I tried not to do that. And as I go down these stairs, one of the boulders that we saw earlier sitting precariously on the edge of the cliff comes tumbling down. It destroys some of these stairs that have apparently been growing for eons, and just like that, they are rubble on the ground. Millions of years of evolution wiped out. As I walk, I seem to find larger and larger beings. Take a look at this giant head. When I saw this for the first time, I knew he was big, but as more and more of him is revealed to you through this small hole in the landscape, you get a sense that he's even bigger than initially thought. And then, after a few more seconds, you realize he's even bigger than that second estimate, too. This particular guy is called the Wanderer, and he's the second largest creature in this game. We'll talk about the number 1 later. The Wanderer is as tall as 2.5 Golden Gate bridges on their sides, over 6.5 kilometers in height. Truly massive. This is the only time I see him, and neither the wiki nor the in-game collectibles tell us his purpose. My guess is that his purpose is to watch for intruders like me. This way, it makes sense that I almost never come across him, since if I did, it would probably be the end of me, and also it makes sense that the only time I see him is in this cave, since he probably wouldn't be able to see me in this place and would just continue flying by, like I see him do. Again, I just keep coming across more and more creatures the closer I get to the pendulum. Next, I find something called the adjudicator in this ravine. He's over 37 meters tall as a 13-story building, and his story is a bit of a sad one. He's the second in command of the utility room, and he makes the decisions for all the smaller workers to follow. That being said, the utility room has become a well-oiled machine in the last 14 billion years. All the other workers know their jobs so well, he isn't needed any longer, and hasn't given out any instructions for the last 13 billion years, apart from one incident 6 billion years ago. I am never told what that incident was, but maybe it was someone else who had found their way into the utility room and started causing trouble like me. Maybe that's what that weird creature was that we found in the ravine not that long ago, like we theorized before. That's just speculation, though. Either way, now the adjudicator just sits here, waiting, and no one knows if he even still works. Okay, he definitely still works, but thankfully, he either isn't strong enough to chase after me fully, or he just wants to watch because he leaves me alone. He doesn't even bother telling the workers about me, even though I assume they are still looking for me, after how badly I messed things up. Maybe he has a grudge against them for abandoning him for so long? Who's to say? The next creature I come across on my journey might be the most terrifying. This little YouTube thumbnail looking thing is the Predator. It's funny, his face looks like a YouTube thumbnail, and his name would also be a good description of many YouTubers. All that being said, the developer likes to call him the Naughty Roomba instead. He is the antivirus of the utility room. He moves around incredibly quickly, so that if I'm caught in his path, I don't even have time to react. At first I thought there was actually a bunch of him, with how fast he moves, but it turns out that there's just one. He'll simply be in one place 1 second, and then somewhere completely different in the next. I don't think he actually intentionally chases after me, he seems to only follow predetermined paths, over and over again. I also don't think it's a coincidence that I only find him when I'm this close to the pendulum. Odds are, his primary job is to protect it. Me being here is probably the only action he's seen in billions of years, and he makes the most of it. The reason I think this is the scariest part of the game is because every time he whooshes past me, it's like a jump scare. Once I can get past him, I reach another orb that takes me to the next area. I'm nearly at the pendulum now, and I can constantly hear it moving in the wind, even when underground or in a cave. In the distance, I see the most gargantuan creature in the game. I don't know who he is yet, but I will soon. He blocks out the light for a moment. At this point, there's no telling how long I've been wandering through this place. It may only have been hours, or it may have been centuries. Since the pendulum wasn't in sight at all when I first started, and I couldn't hear it at all, it's anyone's guess. Speaking of the pendulum, it swings past another watcher, narrowly missing it. It seems like the watchers are so familiar with its motions that they feel totally comfortable walking right next to it. But maybe they shouldn't be. Not after I decalibrated it when I broke those orbs earlier. Ever since then, its swinging has been off-kilter and abnormal, and so as another watcher ducks under the pendulum, like it probably has done many times before without incident, the pendulum comes slamming back down on top of it with a deafening crack. This shook me to my core when I saw it, because I somehow didn't see the watcher coming until it was too late. I was still looking at the other one that was leaving to my right, so when I heard this massive noise, I was really startled. After this, the reverberation sent the narrow ledge I'm on falling to the earth. Once again, I'm underground, mostly unhurt, but that loud noise sent a bunch of workers in my direction, and it takes no time for them to stumble across me. Once one of them tracks me down, more arrive, swarming me. The first one must have telepathically notified the others that they found the intruder. For now, they just watch me to see what I'll do next after this catastrophic failure. I walk outside looking for an escape, but see even more worker silhouettes staring at me in the distance. Before I can even react, the rock I'm on is ripped away, and I'm flung across the utility room to who knows where. I'm flown past a structure called the sorter. It rotates and has 4 arms that send workers across the utility room to do their tasks. The workers actually enter it through the bottom and then are launched out in whatever direction they're needed. You can think of the sorter as a big cannon that shoots the workers all over the place at faster speeds than they can fly, which is saying a lot because they can fly pretty fast. We actually see some of them now, flying by in single file. Very organized. In the distance, I see a mountain, only it's not a mountain. It's a giant, lumpy face staring right at me. I move into a cave in front of it where it can meet me in private. This is the bin man. He's the man in charge of the utility room. He alone has the choice to be any size. He has been as small as 3 centimeters and could probably be smaller, but it might lead to him collapsing into a singularity, so he avoids it. The biggest he's ever gotten has been twice the size of our sun, but honestly he could probably get even bigger than that. According to the wiki, he's literally made of nothing. If you held him under a microscope, nothing would be there. Still, somehow, he is real. This isn't even his true appearance. He just takes this appearance to avoid sending creatures into the depths of insanity. That's what would happen if they saw his true self. He believes this appearance should be comforting to me, and I guess no one's ever told him otherwise. According to those collectibles I mentioned earlier and the wiki, he was hired by God himself to manage this place billions of years ago, and has faithfully done so ever since. He is the only creature in this game to have color, possibly because, unlike the relatively mindless creatures here, he has some kind of appreciation for aesthetic beauty. He's the only one to actually be hired for this job, which suggests that he possibly had a life before it, and would want to hold on to his ability to perceive color and be colorful, purely for its aesthetic value. Of course, this form he takes is not exactly aesthetically pleasing, but this is just the form he shows me. We know that he can have other forms. I saw him before when he blocked out the light, though he didn't see me. That was one of his walks. he tries to walk around the whole utility room every 500 years to make sure everything's running smoothly. Until now, it always has been, but I have messed things up. I step forward in the cave, and he comes out of the shadows to inspect me. And I mean really inspect me. His eye comes right up to me, taking in every detail of the tiny creature that has ruined so much of this place. As I touch him, he recoils and screams in disgust. All of a sudden, he has had enough. I enter his mind. From there, he shows me countless visions, reminding me of my haunting time in this place in an effort to scare me away from ever coming back. From this point on, everything I see is not in the actual utility room. It's all in the bin man's head, and none of it is real. He seems reluctant to actually harm me, like even after everything I've messed up, he still wants me to choose to leave. This is by far the most abstract part of the game, and most of what happens in this part is just my best guess, honestly. It's very much left up to your interpretation, unless Lionel decides to tell us. So bear with me if some of this sounds like a stretch, because it definitely is, but I think we can still come to some decent conclusions about what we're seeing. The vision starts when Bin Man shows me the adjudicator, a horde of slugs, the predator, anything to drill one message into me. Do not come back. He shows me a vision of aliens in a field of grass. I actually don't know what to make of this one. I've thought about it for a long time, and I'm kind of at a loss. But then suddenly, I'm on Earth. Maybe this was my home from millions of years ago when I first began my journey, and he's showing it to me to remind me what I once had, to get me to go back. Even here, he's watching me, in the form of Bob Ross on a laptop screen. A slug crawls into the room, providing a visual contrast between the comforts of home and the strangeness of the utility room. Next, I see the bin man in a mirror. In the mirror, he is black and white, again providing a clear contrast between the monotony of the utility room and our world, and asking me, why in the world did you ever want to come here? Monkey screeches also play, either as an attempt to scare me again, or maybe just to insult my intelligence, and to imply that the bin man knows what is best for me, while I am just a screeching primate without any real clue what I actually want. I then see the bin man fly past me in a subway, either just trying to startle me again or taunt me by showing me that he can match the speed of one of humanity's most advanced modes of transportation all by himself. Then we cut to a scene of me in a bathroom as the toilet flushes and the bin man just stares me down. At this point, I can't help but feel like he's just mocking me. Next, I am in a giant white structure. This structure seems to be inspired by a Reddit post from a couple years back of someone's recreation of their dream. It looks almost identical. All that happens here is I go down a long corridor into another white dome. Now, I know this is a stretch, but if I'm trying to apply meaning to these visions beyond simple surrealism, my best guess is that this is depicting the moments I left Earth to go on my arduous journey to the utility room so long ago. I believe this first structure could be some version of a rocket launch mount. It's definitely more sophisticated than our current ones, which makes sense if this is from the future where we'd actually be able to achieve intergalactic travel. And this hallway feels kind of like the type you'd use to actually enter the rocket itself. This dome could be that rocket, although it definitely looks more like a traditional UFO. Outside, the bin man is carefully watching to see what I do next, like this is the moment of some crucial, pivotal choice. It seems like he's giving me the choice to either fly away in this UFO to begin my long journey, the same long journey that started this whole adventure, or turn around and leave, to go back down to Earth where I belong, never making the perilous journey that sent me to the utility room in the first place. The bin man shows me one more vision. At first it looks like the utility room. It's in black and white after all, but I actually think this is Earth. For one thing, I see storm clouds and lightning, and while I've seen fog in the utility room, I don't think there's a single cloud in it. Also, I spawn in an actual building. A very broken building, but still, a building, which doesn't match anything I've seen in the utility room. I can actually get a closer look at it somewhere else, though. See, the utility room actually comes with some bonus features, like a sculpture gallery. It's pretty cool. It lets you see all the creatures in this game up close without the fear of them hurting you. And this building is inside it. We can tell that it is definitely a human-made building, and it even has graffiti all over it. It's also just weird that this would be in the gallery in the first place. Unless it holds some sort of significance, it seems like just a random structure. The fact that it's here seems to imply that it is more important than that. As one more piece of evidence that this is some potential future version of Earth, when I look up at the bin man, I see what looks like weird futuristic skyscrapers for a brief moment before he wipes them out in the blink of an eye. I believe that this is bin man showing us our world, a future version of our world, but our world, and threatening to ruin it to shatter everything on it and to turn it into a desolate, depressing landscape just like the utility room, if I ever even think about coming back through that door again. It's almost like he's saying, if you ever consider coming back here, I will give you exactly what you're looking for. I will turn your world into the utility room, and we'll see how much you like it then. This is the last thing he shows us, before I snap out of my hallucination back in the actual, real utility room. The bin man now knows he has taught me my lesson, and now he can safely remove me from this place once and for all, fully confident that I'll never come back. He lifts me high up into the sky, past the pendulum, back to the door where the game started, and he shoves me through it. From there, he slowly lifts the key that I used to enter the utility room and shatters it right in front of my eyes. There will be no more tourists, there will be no more visitors, there will be no more outsiders. I have caused irreparable harm to this place, and my kind will no longer be tolerated. In a way, it's a blessing that the bin man has even let me live. He certainly did not need to. Now he turns around and flies back through the door, leaving me once more in the dark abyss of space, far away from the nearest star, to make the agonizingly slow journey home. That's the end of the utility room, and I hope you can now see why I'm so fascinated by it. It provides a completely unique idea of what the backstage of the universe could look like. It's hard to really compare it to anything else because there's nothing else quite like it. It can also be shockingly terrifying, especially in VR, and it provided me with the unique challenge of solving its tangled web of a story, diving deep into the lore, and hopefully explaining it faithfully to all of you. Lionel, if you're watching, I would love to hear your thoughts on this video. It would also be awesome to get any answers to my biggest lingering questions, like how did our protagonist survive for 3 million years on this journey? What does the reprimand really mean? Or are some parts of it simply surrealism for surrealism's sake? Is it true that you made the original utility room short film partially in Minecraft? I'd love to hear more about this world, but of course, if you'd rather leave things up to interpretation, that's okay too. I'm not trying to tell you how to tell your story, I'm just musing about a world that I find incredibly fascinating. Besides, I know you're working hard on future projects, so I understand that you might not have much time to spare for the utility room right now. Regardless, I had a wonderful time in this bizarre, otherworldly realm, and I can't wait to tell everyone back home all about it. About 3 million years from now, I should probably get going.